This week's episode,
Black-Eyed Children.
In 1996, a Texas reporter got a letter in the mail telling 2 stories of an alleged encounter with the Black-Eyed Children. The man, Brian Bethel, said he pulled into the parking lot of a movie theater and was using the light to write a check. He was so absorbed in what he was doing that he didn't notice 2 children approach his door until one of them tapped on his window. As he rolled down the window, he began to feel a soul-wrenching fear. Yet he couldn't understand why he felt this way. The eldest boy stated that he had forgotten his money and needed a ride back to the house so he could get it. Bethel realized that the movie they had told him they wanted to see was already showing. It was going to be over before they would be back. This set off something in him and he broke his gaze away from them. It was then that the fear grew more intense. At that moment, he looked back and he saw the children's eyes had gone pure black. The children began to demand access to the inside of the car, saying that they could not enter unless they were invited inside. At that moment, he realized that subconsciously he had been moving towards the handle and was about to open the door for them. After he snapped himself out of the trance, he quickly sped out of the parking lot and never looked back. This was the first recorded incident of the Black-Eyed Children.
So these kids just rolled up to this bro's car and was like, "Hey, mister, let us in." And he didn't drive away sooner. I mean, like, if some little soulless kid who had, like, no pupils, I guess such enlarged pupils that it covered their whole eye, or like, are their eyes completely gone? Like, are they just eye sockets and that's what makes them black eye?
As far as I know, it's not that their eyes are removed or anything. It's just, they just literally have pure black eyes. It is just this, it's almost like the contact scleros. We put them in and it's just pure black eyes.
Okay.
But several incidents in the story are really weird. First of all, he was writing a check. So if you're sitting in your car, you naturally have your window and then you have your side window. These kids appeared, and personally, if I'm sitting in my car and I'm writing a check, I'm usually sitting on the steering wheel. I can see things in my peripheral. If I see something in my peripheral, I'm going to move. But the thing is, he never saw them show up in his peripheral. It wasn't until the eldest boy, 2 people walked up and they tapped on the window, and he was like, "Oh my God."
How old were these kids?
I think they were like 6 and 12. I mean, they weren't very old.
I was going to say, like, if it's like a toddler and like a 6-year-old brother, it's really, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have been as scared as whether they had black pupils or not or whatever. I probably would have just been like, "Oh no, little kiddos, like, they probably just need a ride home. Come on in, little buddy."
Yeah, don't do that. Because, like I said, when he rolled down that window, he just got an overwhelming deal of fear.
Oh, I do too whenever I see children. Are there any other stories where, like, they did get let in? Like, they did actually get into someone's car or their house or their whatever?
It's funny you should mention that. There was an old couple that was at home one day. And, of course, black-eyed children don't discriminate as long as you're in something protecting yourself. Almost like a vampire. They can't come in without you inviting them in.
Okay.
And so, of course, a nice old woman and man sitting there at their house and, 2 children.
"Come on in, Sonny, have some cookies."
Remind me never to come to your house when you're old.
They're peanut butter.
Anyways, they let the black-eyed children in. They told them, we've been walking. Our parents are supposed to be coming picking us up. Is there any way we can just stay here? And tell them that we're going to, be here, and that way they can come pick us up at your house. And the old woman, being, a nice old woman, was like, "Oh, sure, come on in." Now, the first thing she noticed was that they didn't use the phone to call their parents. She let them in, and she says what happened was, aside from the overwhelming fear, of course, when she first opened the door, which is one of the common things that happen when you're in the presence of these children, she just, her maternal instincts took over. So she's like, "Yeah, come on in." Of course, the children walked into the living room and sat down, which was, kind of creepy. They looked Children of the Cornish. If you've ever seen that movie, Children of the Corn, they kind of had the bowl cut, and they're like, yeah.
80s.
The 80s was a good time for horror movies. You're going to get a lot of flack for that. Just smile and wave at the nice people. It's a good
I didn't say anything. I plead the 5th.
Best time was the 80s. So the woman started getting, they asked the old woman, can we go to the bathroom? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she pointed down to where it was. And so they both went in. This was, I didn't give the actual time frame. It was in the 90s. So this is a little later on, I guess if they had like a, old school cell phone, maybe, I don't know.
Get the old briefcase out.
Right. But they went to the bathroom together and came out. Well,
that would have been my next clue. Like, if two kids were like, we'll be right back, and went to the bathroom together, I'd be like, why?
So she says as those kids sat there for a while, she said she started, getting dizzy and delusional and everything. And eventually, both her and, of course, her husband, who was in the next room watching television, they both passed out. They were gone. It was only about 2.5 hours later, they woke up and the little kids were standing by the door. Their parents had showed up and they were like, it's time for us to go. Now, the old woman, stumbled to her feet. Of course, her husband still passed out in the other room. Looked up and saw that the parents themselves were dressed in suits with a hat. Of course, you think, man and woman. They had no eyebrows. They had no facial hair whatsoever. The best way to describe it is the Men in Black, if that makes sense. And I'm not talking, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. I'm talking the spooky Men in Black.
Right.
And, of course, they never said a word. They just, looked. The kids got in the car with the parents, and they drove off. And that was it. What's really, really scary about this, and the old woman blames the incident on this, was that her husband, within like 3 or 4 days, developed a severe case of cancer. And they can't explain it. But she says they were perfectly fine. He had no previous health problems. He had none of that. And they said that his body just almost instantaneously developed cancer.
Well, to be fair, though, I think a lot of cases of cancer usually end up like that anyway. A lot of people don't realize they have it. Like, you'll be totally fine, clean bill of health, or so you think, and then one day you pass out, or one day you're having issues in the bathroom, or whatever. You go to the doctor to get tested, and then all of a sudden you have stage 4 cancer that week. It's not that it grew like in that one day. It's just you didn't develop any symptoms until then, so it may have just been a coincidence.
It could have been. But, she swears up and down that her husband was in perfect health. They had gone to the doctor. He had a clean bill of health. And then after that's when he developed it.
So where did they come from? Like, what creates a black-eyed child? Where would they have even been manifested from?
And so there are several theories. Some think they're a supernatural entity, which just appeared out of nowhere. It could be children that are actually, and I know this sounds horrible, possessed by some dark entity. There's also a possibility that they are, in fact, alien creatures that were here on Earth. They were a product of a crossbreed, so they're like half alien, half human, and so that's why, although they look human, they got the black eyes.
Right.
So that's a possibility. That's what that is. Others think that it could also be an experiment done by either the Men in Black or the government, and they just happened to escape, and now there's like a ton of these black-eyed children running around the world.
So, aliens.
Yes.
Or aliens. Or... experimental aliens.
You forgot demons. Could be demons.
Or demons.
Could be. Nobody's thrown holy water on them yet, so we don't know. Think about it. They kind of act like a vampire. They literally can't enter a house unless you let them in.
I wonder what would be holding them back. Like, what kind of force would be holding them back from just walking in?
I tell you what's holding them back from my house, my fist. I'm like, no. And they would have 3 black eyes.
They only have 2 eyes.
Yeah, but I have, a shiner on one of them. So one,
They'd
two.
still only have
Whatever, you know what I mean.
they'd have 2 black eyes.
You want another one? After these incidents, people have started stating that there are several things that they should be on the lookout for if a black-eyed child does come knocking on your door. They're always going to be children at least 6 to 16 years old. They will always ask to enter the home or vehicle or wherever you're at. They always create a state of fear when they're in the presence of normal people. People are usually compelled to do something without realizing that they're doing it. So again, you could be sitting there and they'd be like, I need $5. And you'd be like, no. What? Give me that.
Thanks.
Right? If I had that power, oh man.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I feel like a pretty good warning sign or a pretty good indication is that they have black eyes.
It's true.
Maybe that should be your first clue. Yeah, I just don't know if I believe it. I do have to say, I like this myth, though, because it's not the normal. It's something that's different than just like a creature or a monster or like, I feel like black-eyed children are just a very unique subject.
They are, because it almost takes the innocence of something and then turns it evil. You wouldn't suspect a child of hurting someone.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. You don't... Yeah.
Like if there's an issue with a creature or a monster or a story or a myth of one, they're the victims, they're not the creature themselves. I don't know. I just think that's interesting.
It is.
I don't think I necessarily believe in them. I don't think they're a real thing, especially because I don't know. The whole subject of aliens is kind of a hard one for me. I definitely, I think it would be really ignorant of me to say that there's just no possibility, because there is. The sun is technically a star.
Yeah.
And there are billions and trillions of stars out there. Who's to say that one of those suns out there doesn't have another planet that made it like we did? So maybe there are aliens, but do I think that they have anything to do with us? Probably not. I don't think they come visit us. I don't think we're a petri dish or anything like that. I don't think they develop black-eyed children.
You never know, but how developed are we compared to them? Think about it. Who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe somehow, there's ways of getting here. There's incidents of time slips. There's incidents of wormholes. There's thousands there. We're not that advanced to that point yet where we've actually gotten to what they have. Maybe they have visited us. I don't know. But that is the black-eyed children. So guys, I ask you, do you guys believe that the black-eyed children are real? And if you have any encounters with them, let us know in the comments below.
Dude, yeah, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, let me know. I think they're real. That's just a personal deal. But remember, guys, that's the end of our show. Like and subscribe down below. Hit that bell icon to get notified of our next episode. And remember, keep your eyes peeled.
And your minds open.
Bye, guys.